ऐसे तुम महाराज मुझको गणराज विद्या सुखदाता धन्य तुम्हारो दर्शन मेरा मन रमता जय देव जय देव जय देव जय देव जय देव जय देव।
May I invite the dignitaries to come on the dais? May I invite the dignitaries to come on the dais? Tilochan sir. Ashok Dalwai sir, Malhotra sir, Karungo sir, Lalit Singhal sir, Raju Kapoor ji, N.K. Agarwal sir, and Abhijit ji. Parikshit ji. May I request our chairman, Parikshit ji, to formally welcome the dignitaries. To Tilochan sir. Sir, solve it. To Ashok Dalwai sir, Parikshit ji. Abhijit ji, please welcome S.K. Malhotra sir. Kanungo sir, Abhijit ji. Request N.K. Agarwal sir, the Duronacharya of Agrochemical, to welcome the Pitamaha Bhishma, Lalit Singhal ji. At least for me, you are Duronacharya sir. Thanks a lot. We'll start the program. ACFI, we have grown and established ourselves as a true platform for policy interventions and a vocal flag waver for the entire Indian agrochemical industry. Along the way, we have achieved many milestones and have touched upon many important and serious issues to minimize business compliance. Moreover, we have reiterated our commitment to society as ever and dedicated ourselves towards promoting the safe and judicious use of crop protection chemicals and working towards the sustainability of Indian agriculture, which helps in providing quality of agri inputs at affordable prices and also better productivity and quality of agriculture produce with the increase of income of the farmers. May I request our chairman, Parikshit Mundraji, to deliver the welcome address.
Good afternoon, everyone. It has been 5 years since we started this journey, and this journey wouldn't have been possible without the blessings of our seniors, Salil ji, RG Saab, Nandkishore ji, our first president, and who used to always run to for anything, and Mr. Chudiwal. Back then, we didn't know that in such a short span of time, we would possibly become the most diverse, and in terms of size of the number, the members' numbers, we would go on to become possibly the biggest agrochemical association in the country. I welcome Dr. Mahapatra, Shri Dalwai Saab, Salil ji, NK Saab, Malhotra ji, and Dr. Kanungo today. Thank them all for taking out time. Globally, we are at a very difficult stage as far as agrochemicals or weather patterns are concerned. We've had the worst drought in Europe in possibly last 500 years. A large part of China is undergoing huge rain deficit. In India, we've had a reasonably okay monsoon with large parts of Bengal, Bihar, UP being under a huge deficit. In fact, I am from Calcutta, but I have not seen such a deficit rainfall in recent memory, where the streets have not been flooded with water on a single day. So it remains a cause of concern. In our association, we have few of them being the banning of 27 pesticides, the concerns around glyphosate, CIB-RC reforms, and pesticide management bill. For details on this, Jitendra Mohanji, our technical advisory, head of our technical advisory, would take you through it later. And Abhijit ji, our general secretary, would also run you through the activities which the association has been doing for the last 1 year. The association has been active in promoting judicious and proper use of agrochemicals, and in this regard we had launched the Jago Kisan Jago campaign in northern part of the country. Day after tomorrow, that is on 11th September, ACFI is again with Shri Nitin Gadkari Saab at Nagpur. We are launching five campaign vans which would run around the cotton belt of Maharashtra, and for the full month. And it has been a huge success, a huge campaign for us. We did it on a trial basis, and it would not have been possible without the advice and guidance of Shri RG Saab. So I thank you again for the same. I once again warmly welcome all of you, and we look forward to have a productive session today. Thanks again.
I request Dr. Trilochana Mahapatra, scientist and former Director General ICR, to lead the panel discussions, role of crop protection chemicals in sustainable agriculture. And before that, I request Salil sir to set the tune. If you can speak for 10 minutes, and then thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Trilochan ji, Ashok ji, Suresh ji, people I have always called with their first names because of my very old relationship with all of them, Kanun Go and K, and my friends in the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted and honored to have this occasion of talking to you on a very top subject called sustainable agriculture. So firstly, I must congratulate ACFI for the rapid growth it has achieved in the last 5 years. I think one of the biggest tragedies of the pesticide industry is the way it is divided. And it is unfortunate that it is divided primarily on selfish reasons, not on real, जिसको कहते हैं ना मुद्दे की बात पर कोई problem नहीं. Problem है about sustainability of the business, and it all boils down to sustainability of individual business. So that has been a major drawback. But I'm glad to see that ACFI is now gradually trying to pick up those threads and bring as many members on board together to follow a common agenda for the future of Indian agriculture, which is so much dependent on what you and I in this industry do. And this is so directly linked to the subject of sustainable agriculture. Because, as I would say, if you look at it, in the last 100 years, there have been rapid growth in the use of technology in agriculture, be it the propagation of seeds, GM varieties, intensifying use of chemicals, mechanization, and government policies, which have so strongly focused on promoting agricultural higher productivity, lower food costs, and reduced farming risks. So these are facts. But it has also brought about with it its own challenges. It has caused soil depletion, it has caused air and ground pollution, it has caused water contamination. Farmer conditions have suffered enormously in many places. For example, in the United States, the agriculture farm depends on the migrant labor, who's hired at virtually half their official price or cost to the labor. So the food that the Americans eat or that they export is dependent on the hard but very difficult labor conditions of the farmers of the US. And of course, the growth and development of new pathogens, pests and diseases that come out. Therefore, sustainable agriculture becomes a very, very important subject, and it must meet the 3 pillars. And why I'm dwelling on this, because let's first understand what sustainable agriculture means. And it has to be dependent on 3 major pillars of environmental issues, economic profitability, and social equity, an equally important aspect of our agricultural activities. And if you look at it, 20-25 years ago, nobody talked of agriculture sustainability. They talked of other sustainability, but now the focus has also come on agricultural sustainability. It is for this reason that the first requirement for us is to understand how do we want to define sustainable agriculture. I don't know whether you, no, this is for us, but you're able to see it. I want you to very carefully look at this and understand, because we all individually, corporate-wise, and together have to assign ourselves to this particular philosophy, requirement, what we call. It's all about managing the today so that the tomorrow is equally secure. And this is what, so the first definition is what they have done in the US. The other is one of those typical definitions, and there are many, many definitions you will find. But in ultimate need, it's all about today, how it will address tomorrow. But what are the challenges that this subject faces? The major challenge it faces is it needs knowledge, and it needs localized knowledge. The knowledge of Rajasthan will not work in Kerala vis-a-vis the agricultural practices. It needs skills and abilities to manage the agroclimatic ecosystems, climatic and ecosystems in the localized way. And it has to be managed in a sustainable way. And this requires a huge diversified combination of formal knowledge and education, knowledge of field level experience, science level research and development, and innovations. But there is another connected challenge to the subject of defining agriculture sustainability. It is that the definition itself is evolving. It may change in view of the various factors. For example, the soil types, the climate conditions, the labor conditions, or the labor costs, energy costs, which is today such a major issue. And then there could be ideological and cultural issues. The way they would like to do the farming in China and USA and Russia may not be the model that would work, for example, in democratic countries like India and the US. So what I say about climate change, about sustainable agriculture, that we have to look at it as a journey rather than a goal. You cannot say this is sustainable agriculture, this is not. It's an evolving science. And this is like making a commitment to maintaining quality, or maintaining reputation, or maintaining discipline. There is no end to these goals that you require. So climate change is something that must be understood in that context. However, the fundamentals are clear. Sustainable agriculture needs stewardship, skills and knowledge, has also remained constantly involved in the changing ideological perspective of what is to be called sustainable. Let me now come to the specific one or two examples of what sustainable agriculture means in the context of our business industry. If we look at it way back, there are references in the Bible of huge famines resulting in large-scale movement of people all the way to Egypt from the biblical lands, because the agriculture was not sustainable, and the reason was locust. But today, the locust attacks which we recently saw, and many of you, I see not very many gray hair here, but Ganungo will bear me out. But we used to have an LCPPO in Punjab. He was called the Locust Control and Plant Protection Officer. Locust was such a major problem in those days. But it was the agrochemical industry which helped us to contain it. You look at the Phytophthora infestans impact on the potato crop of Ireland way back in the 1800s. It destroyed 35-40% of their population because there's no food to eat. It is impossible for such a situation to happen now. This is again what agrochemicals as an industry has done to give long-term sustainability to our agricultural output. Or for that matter, if you were to look at how almost 20% of the coffee in Brazil was destroyed due to the fungal pathogen that affected that coffee and severely impacted the lives of the farmers there. So I don't want to get into the details of what agrochemical has done. We know what we do, we know what we are doing, and how importantly it supports our agriculture sustainability. The other aspect of agriculture sustainability vis-a-vis the pesticide business is the chemistry of pesticides. The first one was DDT, and I'm not sure, and I think everybody would know, the DDT did end up saving more than 500 million lives when the product was in use. From malaria, the National Malaria Eradication Program was one of the most successful Government of India programs, saved millions of lives, not only in India but in our neighborhood. DDT saved millions of lives during the Second World War against termites and other diseases. The soldiers used to rub DDT powder in their hair to save themselves from lice, and it saved 500 million lives. But today DDT is the most denounced agrochemical product in the industry. So you see how science and technology changes the perception of what is good yesterday and what's no good today, and we don't know what might not be good tomorrow. So what has the industry done? The industry has done something very interesting. It has been working assiduously in the creation of molecules, and I'm using the word creation of molecules which are focused on safety. Let me say clearly here, if I look 30 years back at the industry, it was essentially to see the spectrum. It was essentially to see what are the major pest diseases, problems of the day. But now the focus has gone far more on the safety aspect of the products. So from 3 kgs per acre hectare applications, the molecule applications came down to 2 kg. We had the molecules of organophosphates and a variety of them. And now you have molecules which work at 5 grams a hectare, 10 grams a hectare, 15 grams a hectare, which has hugely reduced the load on the environment when they are applied here. This is very much a part and parcel of the activity towards agricultural sustainability. And this is a very significant contribution that the industry makes. Needless to mention, as we know that the large multinational companies together spend nothing short of $6 to $7 billion in research. You just, if some of you are interested, look up at the recent IPO, the public offer that Syngenta has made for $50 billion, and you will see what it talks about, the research activities. Or you look at what Bayer does, 20% of its profits, 25% of its profits go into R&D. I've had the privilege of visiting their facilities, and it's unbelievable. They spent $2 billion on a computer system and on IT system, which is a completely separate building, to see how they can research. And what they're researching is new chemistry. They're not looking at chemistry that exists. But the scientists are trying to pull out from the sky something completely new to say which would be safe. And that's why it costs $300 million to make a new molecule. So this is what the agrochemical industry is doing. And I make a reference to these large companies because let's not forget, all of us are here in business because of what they discovered or what they invented and brought it to this country. And I dare say, given the situation, it's going to remain the same. So now I come to the last point, and I think I've spoken more than I should have. But my last point on this agenda is very simple. This entire sustainability, pesticide molecule availability will be driven by our registration processes. And I'll close by saying the less talked about it, the better. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think thank you so much, Mr. Salil Singhal, for setting the platform right. And I will request Dr. S.K. Malhotra sir to throw some lights, taking it forward from this.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody here. I'm really happy to be here with you all on this occasion of annual general body meeting of ACFI. Yeah, the great stalwarts and our, I should say, the mentors, they are also present here. Dr. Tirlochan Mahapatra sir and Dr. Darwai sir, as well as many other senior colleagues are also present here. And I know that I got the chance to have a close interaction with the pesticide industry when I was chairman of the registration committee of CIBRC, and I got the chance to handle many such issues. I could I must give my compliments to the industry, that our industry, pesticide industry in particular, it's a very brilliant industry. We have a brilliant minds which are available with us, and even they have helped the government at many instances for resolving the unresolved issues. So there are many issues I still remember, and even during the crisis period when the corona pandemic issue was there, during that period also you helped in uninterruptedly supplying the pesticide to the farmers, to the retailers. This you did because our country as a whole is having a great network where we have about, I think, 1.5 lakh retailers are there, I think, through which these all pesticides are made available. And we have now about 300, we have reached 300 molecules are with us, and 300 molecules are there which have been registered, and so many formulations, about 800 formulations are also there. So this is the progress which has taken place, and during the last few years we succeeded in introduction of the new molecules, particularly 52 molecules I have been mentioned. Out of these 52, again 20 are ultra new, I should say. Those were the molecules which were introduced. And then export promotion also took place, because export already whatsoever we produce, 50% we import also. So out of the total consumption and production, and then whatsoever we consume, then we earn a lot of foreign revenue through export of pesticides. So pesticides again has been identified as the champion sector because of that reason only. So we discussed export promotion, that how we can further enhance the export. We also discussed that drone technology, we need to bring efficiency into the system. If we have to bring the efficiency, what are the modes which are required to be adopted? So drone technology is also one of it, because here pesticide could play the greater role. It was realized. So really drone could play a greater role, and accordingly regulatory system also came into the action, and we immediately whatsoever molecules were registered, immediately those have been given a kind of temporary registration, and some data is further required to be developed. So such kind of initiatives were also taken. We sat together, we were not having solution available with us, and we discussed with the industry, and then accordingly we provided the solution and reached to some conclusion. Then crop grouping also we discussed, I remember. So now we are having at least solution available with us, that there are several minor crops for which pesticide label claim, if we need to extend, that is required to be done through that mode only. And then several invasives also came into the picture. Either it's locust, fall armyworm, wheat blast. There are so many in the list. So industry also came forward, and the ready solutions were made available to the situation if we have to handle it. And there were even instances where we wanted that, yes, how we can further, some of the pests as well as some of the diseases, how we can further suppress, eradicate. So these all were the agendas which we discussed, and we reached to some conclusion. Some temporary recommendations were also made. And then issue used to come that, yes, we need to align our guidelines with the international standards. International guidelines, how they are having with us. So we made some kind of toxicological parameters, those were also taken into, we considered, and those toxicological guidelines were also fine-tuned and were aligned with those ones. And introduction of the new molecules, Singles have also mentioned into it. Yes, introduction of the new molecules. Again, we discussed, and then we got the guidance from Honorable Sir, Dr. Tirlochan Mahapatra Sir. We discussed that yes, there is enough scope where ICR can play the greater role in testing of those new molecules, and further that could be done into it. And Dr. Tirlochan Mahapatra Sir also provided kind of guidance to the country when regulatory system for biostimulant was also done. So I got the chance to work closely under his guidance. So these were few of the new initiatives which we did it, and then new pheromones were also introduced. But anyway, this is a simple small introduction I am just mentioning, but now the challenges are more. But how those challenges are required to be addressed, that is the point. I know our industry is very vibrant, and through these annual general body meetings, many such issues are discussed. Regulatory issues are also discussed. We also sat together in to organize one 3D meeting where we discussed, decide, and deliver these 3 points we discussed, and at the spot many issues were resolved. And open meetings also we conducted, and these are all some of my experiences with you all. So thank you so much for giving me a chance to share my views, and I'll just take permission from the chair also, because I have another meeting. If he will permit, I would like to attend that one, and I'll take leave also, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Malhotra sahab, I always trouble you, and I promise to trouble you as ever. So small, like token of appreciation. Today is the Ganpati Visarjan Day, and please accept.
Our sincere thanks to Dr. S.K. Malhotra for sharing his thoughts. I think a lot of important points have been highlighted by him. So now I would request our guest of honor, Dr. Mahapatra, to please come up and share his thought. Sorry, we have a cordless mic. You can even sit there and talk.
Thank you very much, Dr. First of all, let me thank Dr. Goswami for inviting me, being very persistent that I should be here. I said that I am probably the least ignorant, the most ignorant person, rather, least knowledgeable person to be here to talk about, agrochemicals and addressing the most learned people who are working in this area on crop protection chemicals. Of course, Dr. Goswami was very persistent that I should be here. And as I said, and I'm here, more to learn from others. So I thought I would learn more, and certainly I'll continue learning more. And Dr. Ashok Dalwai, Mr. Salil Singhal, Dr. Kanungo, Dr. Malhotra, of course he has left, Mr. Agrawal, Dr. Kapoor, Mr. Parikshit, and Dr. Abhijit, and everybody else who are present today of the dais. Very good afternoon to each one of you. Many things have been spoken, and time is limiting. Actually, it's already 10 minutes past 12, I think more than that. And we have to finish this session at 1 o'clock. Time is very particular, I believe it should be, and we should confine to time. We need to feed these population, growing population. That's the underlying fact. And we should not, as a country, enter into that kind of situation which we had in 1950s and 60s. Importing food grains to feed this huge population is not and should not be the option. Primarily because the economy would be in bad shape, and the whatever resources we have earned in terms of reserves, obviously it would be drained out very fast if we start depending upon imports. So this is very, very important for all of us, and which is to be underlined, that we have to continue producing at a rate that would always be much above the population growth rate. So that is very, very essential for us. We have grown, fortunately, with regard to production, we have grown higher than the population growth. And that's the reason why we have a very big buffer stock, and which we utilized to supply free food to more than 80 crore people during pandemic. So pandemic is not, in today's context, as we see, mention was made about locust problem, about phytophthora problem, and so on and so forth in the past. And the famines would strike us unaware in future as well, given the climate change. And Salilji has already highlighted out of his rich experience that they are bound to happen because of the situation that prevails now and the kind of adversities which we would be there in the future in terms of climate change and in terms of many other factors. I'm not going into those details. So those challenges would be there in future. So maintaining a growth rate with regard to food production and production of other items, that we need, even fiber, cotton, jute, and other fibers, and other items which we require anyway. So that would require tremendous effort to maintain this lead and continue producing enough for our needs. The industry needs, the consumer needs, and even the nutraceutical needs, and various other needs. And then the environmental needs, the energy needs, which we used to neglect all these aspects and put them on the sidelines when we discuss about food and nutrition. Of course, they are the main focus, but the energy needs, as we go along, we talk of alternative energy sources, but bioenergy, sources as a part of renewable, alternatives, which should be actually exploited. So, given all those, requirements, the imperative needs of this, country, and many of them are civilizational needs, that for our own existence we would be requiring those, and for the economy we would be requiring those. So we have to continue, producing, and growing at a rate which is desirable and essential. So that's the first point I would like to mention, and it's a very important point that we need to really focus on that. Green Revolution taught us many lessons when it is being discussed in various fora. Largely it is criticized today, that it brought us more negatives than positives. When we look back and then see at that point in time, that was bare necessity for all of us to really go for that, adopt technology, and then produce as much as it is required. So, given that kind of situation which was prevailing, it was essential. But today, we may have alternative viewpoints, and we can criticize and also take that to learn lessons, of course. What is that which mattered most at that point in time? Along with the seed, what is important was the chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and of course policy, infrastructure, and the capital investment on those, and so on and so forth. So institutional framework which was essential to succeed, they were put in place, including irrigation and other things. So taken together, we succeeded, and the ship-to-mouth situation, was replaced with, a kind of positive environment, self-sufficiency that brought, along with that. So we had a very, very satisfying situation, thereafter with regard to food front, and we continue doing that. And the supply of food in the form of export, that tells us that we are still performing well. But the concerns which have been raised, and Salilji has highlighted, that the sustainability of the food system, the global level which is being talked about is food system transformation. And food system transformation, of course, doesn't talk about only transforming production by way of all that we are doing during Green Revolution era, but going beyond that. So that's what is actually important. But today's context is a very focused one, and I would limit my deliberation to that rather than going to various other aspects of transforming food system. So obviously we continue transforming food system to meet the sustainable development goals as much as possible. There are challenges to meet those, and more so because of COVID, and there could be many other negatives that we have to encounter in days ahead or years ahead. So, but still, despite all that, we continue striving hard to meet the sustainable development goals. How do we really do this? When we say sustainable production system as a part of transforming agri-food system, we need to really look into it, how best we make use of technology. So technology has been a great savior, and technology and innovations are essential to succeed with regard to transforming agri-food systems and bringing in much needed sustainability. When we talk of sustainability, Salilji was highlighting that we need to really preserve the ecology, ecosystem, and the productivity of the system for future, so that we don't sacrifice that, and future generations are placed in a disadvantageous situation with regard to production and productivity. How do we really do that? So obviously we have to keep in mind the ecology or ecosystem services which are being provided. And how do we really do that again? Various facets of ecosystem which is being discussed at the global level, many of you know. So I will not go into those details because of paucity of time. But use of technology in the form of agrochemicals to sustain food system, to meet the growing demands without compromising the ecosystem services and the environmental health is most crucial, and we must be really deliberating on that. and industry, as you are all here and discussing sustainable, production, sustainable agriculture today, and it's rightly so, and it's much appreciated that while you are talking about or dealing with agrochemicals, you are also concerned about sustainable agriculture. Why the Green Revolution era technology was criticized, whether that was justified or totally unjustified. When we analyze what we see, that it's not just use of chemicals, but rather misuse of the technology in the form of chemicals. That led to some of the negatives. In the year 1968, in the Indian Science Congress, which was held at Banaras, Professor M.S. Swaminathan, in fact, talked about those sustainability parameters, and in fact, cautioned everybody that in our mad rush to enhance productivity, we must not compromise on the productivity of the system, and particularly highlighted the soil and its fertility, and we must not compromise. And very eloquently he spoke about it. And but then you can imagine at that point in time where we were just entering into the Green Revolution phase, and productivity was increasing and amply demonstrated at that point in time. But we could not really heed sufficiently to what he actually warned all of us about or against. And we continued in the same format. It's not just industry, it's not just scientists or technology per se, even the end users, the farmers, in their mad rush to produce more and get more profits, and obviously they also have they lost sight of the sustainability component of it. So in totality, when we analyze these situations, obviously what is required is that every one of us, all the stakeholders, have to be careful about what we are dealing with. Number one, that which is of a prime concern today, that we should rather continue using integrated solutions, as we have been talking about for quite some time. It's very common now, without compromising the ecosystem services. Ecosystem services, when they are compromised, obviously we will be in trouble. Without compromising, when we do agriculture, there could be certain degree of compromise with regard to productivity, and I believe the country must deliberate and arrange for mechanisms to compensate and pay for that. So I believe that is a very important component, and should be an important component of our policy making. We provide subsidy in various forms, and how that subsidy can be roped in, can be utilized to actually have a sustainable production system, even if there are certain compromises made with regard to productivity. And how do we compensate to the farmers? But when it comes to agrochemicals use, and should we really do away with use of agrochemicals? I do not think we can afford to do that in even longer future, neither in shorter term nor in longer term. So what is left to us is how best we can economize on chemical use. Salilji was talking about discovery of new molecules, new chemicals. It continues, and investment thereof by the private big multinationals, how they are investing, and how they are discovering new molecules and continue discovering new molecules. And in the process, the quantity that was used in the past, that's getting reduced very significantly. And we might also end up using nanoforms, a large scale, and in the process reduce a huge quantity of pesticide use in crops like rice, for instance. And after cotton, now cotton is picking up again, and in between because of GM, so it was reduced significantly the pesticide use. Now it is picking up because of emergence of other pests. And rice again is an important consumption, and then vegetables and so on and so forth. Although our data, our All India Coordinated System analysis reveals that not more than 2% of our samples have chemicals, pesticides loads above the limits. But certain locations, regions, provide really serious concerns to us, and we have to really address that. So how do we really, do that? Mention was made that we must be really talking to the end users, particularly farmers, as much as possible, and create massive awareness campaigns. Mention was made in the introductory remarks. How do we really do and engage all stakeholders, including industry and the public institutions? Probably how to use, when to use, how much to use, as a part of precision agriculture. And of course, the method to use. Mention was made about use of drones, the methods to use. So that would help us. The total factor productivity, yesterday we were discussing the rather partial factor productivity. In 1970, it was more than 40, 41, 42 in case of rice, and wheat it was about 49 or so, and now it has come down to 14 to 50 kind of thing. So partial factor productivity has very significantly declined, and that tells us that with the same amount of use, that productivity is low unless you use more of chemicals and fertilizers, particularly in the context of fertilizers was being discussed. So you will not really achieve the same development. So, but then there are solutions, and in the US, how do they really maintain the factor productivity by way of precision agriculture mechanisms? So the technology and their appropriate use would help us attain that productivity without compromising ecosystem services and environmental health. And that is the underlying factor. While new molecule discovery would continue and their applications, their introduction and applications would continue, expanding level claims and all those what Dr. Malhotra said, and all that are important. But their use and judicious use remains the most important component of sustainable agriculture. And there we fail miserably. And whether it is fertilizer or pesticides, there we fail miserably. And I believe that is our common concern. And how do we increase this component of it? Salilji was telling that you have more than 2 lakh, 2.28 lakh retailers, and how do we engage all of them in this process of educating and informing farmers adequately, and everybody else, our KVK system, and the self-help groups, and everybody, and then in the process, make this happen. I believe this is the most important message today. That let us work together on that, and obviously so much to do, and lot of things you are doing already. Mention was made about the campaign which you are planning, and similar such things you must be doing in other locations as well. But when we talk of this, when we introduce new chemicals which are discovered elsewhere, studied elsewhere, and data requirement is so important. The toxicity, the allergenicity, and so on and so forth. And the CIBRC, always takes time. When I was there, we had a lot of discussion at very high level. How do we really reduce the time which is required for registration process? Introducing the online system of applications and then processing, reducing the time. Everything was discussed at a very high level. And some steps were taken to really address those concerns, but there's still a long way to go. And I believe that as we go along, we should be able to really address these in our, nobody's against that, we should not have new molecules introduced and, used in shortest period of time and take full advantage of it. The chemicals which are banned elsewhere and we continue using, and then spurious, chemicals which are being used in this country. And Agrawal Sahib is here, and there was discussion some time ago by FICCI on this aspect. And how do we really, have right kind of policies and measures in place that spurious chemicals which are being used or misused in various formats, and they are really addressed. So the environment can be made safe, or the safety of environment is maintained, ecosystem services are not disrupted very significantly, and and we have all our efforts in place. So these are some of the steps which are very, very important. And protecting the interest of industry is equally important. And while we talk about protecting the interest of the farmers and country's interest with regard to attaining and sustaining the productivity. So how do we really take all of them together? And I believe this is the right platform to really deliberate and give solutions. Not just keep deliberating, but give solutions. And can we plan campaigns together, every month, one campaign, and all of us together with regard to judicious use of, agrochemicals, by the farmers. Right time, the cropping season, the right quantity, amount, the right pesticide, and eliminating the spurious pesticides from the market, and addressing that concern and taking everybody on board. So how do we really do this? This is a big question, and we should be able to do that. And build a database so that everybody's concern is addressed. With regard to all the chemicals which are being used, and a more investment in research. I think that is most crucial. Discovery of new molecules not happening in India, and India should not be lagging behind in this particular area. We do not really invest, almost no investment taking place by public. In discovery of new molecules. We have plenty of agrobiodiversity. So of course agrobiodiversity can be utilized for discovery of new molecules. The biopesticide use to supplement integrated management systems and complement that along with new molecules is very important. But it has not really picked up that much to support the sustainable agriculture production systems. So I think your role would be very crucial, because they are also chemicals, in different formats. Though we say that they are microbial resources which are being utilized in the form of biopesticides. So obviously there are chemicals which matter there, not in pure form though. So addressing those and scaling up those kind of technologies is very, very essential for us. I have taken more time, but there's a long way to go and many other areas to really work on, and plenty of opportunities for all of us to take forward. So thank you very much for inviting speakers to really throw light and tell us what to exactly do. And I had spoken a few points only to highlight some of the issues. So thank you very much. Wish you all the very best.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for guiding us through various aspects of sustainable agriculture. We have eminent experts seated here. May I request Dr. Mahapatra to actually moderate the rest of the session? Please. Please. Yeah, or maybe, yeah, so I think. Okay, so then in such case, I'll request Sri Ashok Dalwai, sir, please come up and share his thoughts.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My respected colleagues on the dais, Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, Dr. Lalit Singh, Dr. Devabrat Kanungo, Dr. N.K. Agarwal, Dr. Raju Kapoor, Suresh Mahalatra, Chairman Parikshit Mundraji, and Secretary Abhijit Bose, all the respected members of the Governing Council of Agrochemical Federation of India, all of the dear participants and friends from media. Once again, good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here. We have heard two very eminent speakers who have shared their thoughts very elaborately. I would share some of my own thoughts more at the macro level. The theme for the plenary session today consists of two broad components: sustainability of agriculture and the role of protection of crops using agrochemicals. These days, sustainability, I hope, is not a flavor of the season. It stands to sustain itself. Because we are all the time keen on creating new words, acronyms. And therefore, I hope that the term sustainability does not become unsustainable by itself. And then there are many terminologies around that. These days we've begun to hear of nature-based agriculture, ecosystem-based agriculture, and there's another one, green economy. Now, do each of these things mean differently? Yes, they do mean differently, but there are certain basic features and all of them do not deny. So they are the unalterable truth of these different terminologies. Just as we have unalterable basic structure of India's constitution, right? Or any constitution for that matter. So some of the basic features of any sustainable approach to agriculture would be resource use efficiency. Second one is minimal intervention into the ecosystem. And third one is resilience. There could be many other features, but these would broadly encompass all that we are going to talk today. If we talk about ecosystem-based agriculture, because that is the basis of any sustainable approach, we need to recognize that there are different components and that these components are organically linked to one another. Anything that we do to puncture at one end of this ecosystem, thinking that other subcomponents of the ecosystem are going to be blind to that, then we are being foolish or we are fooling ourselves. Therefore, when we want to talk about protecting crops for sustainability, we need to appreciate that we have to be ecosystem oriented, and in the light of protection of crops, we must recognize that there are different kinds of pests. Many a time we look at this plant protection or animal protection in a partial way, and I think that's the basic folly. So if we talk about plant protection and the pests associated, today we are increasingly seeing the multiple effects from multiple sources. And to recount, the first one is the vertebrates and the mammals, avians, sorry. Then we have the fungi and microbes. We have virus and different bacteria. We have insects and nematodes. We also have parasites and vectors. And all these pests of different nature are related to one another, and neglect of one would lead to the pest load elsewhere, or unscientific way of controlling one component of this would be yielding a pest load elsewhere. It is therefore very important for us that when we talk of ecosystem-based approach, I'm not talking only in terms of ecology or nature, but here I'm using that word in terms of completeness, comprehensiveness. So plant protection has to be also comprehensive, recognizing the interrelationships that exist between one component and another component, which together constitute the plant protection cafeteria. And therefore the response will then, in that case, be much more comprehensive. So how do we go about this thing? So I would like to list that today's context, where climate change is a reality, the climate change and pest management, and therefore sustainable approach to agriculture, have a very close correlation. We're already aware that the climate change, which results in rising temperature, rainfall variations, increasing number of weather extremes, all have begun to have their negative impact on the yield levels and associated issues relating to pest management, the quality of the produce, and so on. Yes, quality is also a function of the climate factors. For example, increasing temperature results in quicker senescence. That means it makes the plants grow faster. When the plant grows faster, the quality gets compromised. You will not get the same nutrition load that a normal plant can give us. So quantity, quality are all related. And pests directly impact the quantity and quality. We have pests that can chew, that can suck, the pests that can compromise the quality in an indirect manner. So there are both direct and indirect impacts that the pests that I listed bring to bear upon our crops, and therefore what to expect from the crops. Is it for food, nutrition, fiber, and other raw materials to sustain our agro industries? So all of those things get impacted. Hence, if we want to be sustainable in terms that resource use efficiency that I set out first, in terms of minimal interventions into the ecosystem, and simultaneously ensure resilience, because resilience is something that enables a system to negotiate the risks that are natural and much more intense in case of biologically driven systems. So we will have to therefore see how the pest management happens in a very scientific manner, in a comprehensive manner. The first feature of this that all of us know is the maintenance of the qualitative approach to pest management. And the second one, of course, is the appropriate management. And the third one is an integrated approach to pest management. And fourth, of course, related to this in actual business is price management of the pesticides. So if we are talking about quality of the pest management, using pesticides or anything else, we will have to ensure that there is a proper product stewardship so that the consumers, the farmers in this case, are not succumbing to misbranded or spurious products. And because they will be educated properly through stewardship, they will not be succumbing to abuse of pesticides. It is very clear that the per hectare consumption of pesticide in India is still very low. For example, it is 12 kg per hectare in Japan, which is supposed to be a very ecologically conscious country. In India, it is 0.5 to 0.6. Yet, why do we have problems of our commodities being rejected on the grounds of pesticide residues in the export market? Among the many reasons, one of the reasons could be that we are not using it properly. Therefore, we will have to continuously educate our people. When you talk about proper use, it is not only use of minimality, but efficient usage. Today, we may not be using efficiently. In fact, the degree of waste of use of pesticides is one of the highest in India. Because we don't know how to use it. A lot of it is actually wasted in the wind because we don't have proper sprayers to begin with. Or we don't have right volume, or should it be a low volume spray, high volume spray? So all these things matter in directly reaching the place it should reach, and therefore enhance the effectiveness and efficiency of the pest management, pesticides. Therefore, stewardship is extremely important. And price management is very important if we want competition in the market, if we want more and more products to come onto the market, whether through 993 or through 94, whatever the case is. But then we need to have a liberalized, competitive market environment. Therefore, a change in the policy is very much required. A regulated, restricted, controlled market always is regressive. If we want more money invested by our people into R&D, into more of active ingredient or more of formulations, then obviously we need to have an incentive to the people who are engaged in R&D or would like to invest in R&D and manufacture or import. So price management certainly is very important. But above all these things, the integrated pest management becomes very critical. Though, for example, you call yourself as the Agrochemical Federation of India, I think in due course of time, everybody may have to change their names. Because when you talk of sustainability, then we need to bring in a comprehensive approach as a response. If the stimulus is comprehensive, as we talked about several natures of pests and different factors associated with climate and markets, even the response has to be comprehensive. So you might be missing the wood for the tree if you talk only about chemicals. Because increasingly in the 21st century, when people are talking about green economy, bioeconomy, circular economy, they're all going to talk about producing the materials, whether it is biochemicals, bioenzymes, biomaterials, all sourced from the photosynthetically grown elements, from agriculture, from forests, and of course even animal products. So we will be talking about biostimulants, we'll be talking about bioenzymes, and not just fossil-based chemicals. So would you like to rethink your business model? I mean, you know better about business than me, but I'm just only placing on the table. In due course of time, if you want to be more responsive, more comprehensive, and therefore contribute to the sustainability of the world, then should it be that under the same house you have chemical based approach, biology based approach, mechanical systems of approach, biological control agents, and so on and so forth. So that would actually contribute to resource use efficiency. Because resource use efficiency, whether in water management, soil management, pest management, anything, market management, is not going to come from a singular approach. There is no linearity if you want to achieve efficiency. It has to be multilinear. Therefore, even you as people engaged in business and manufacturing, etc., may like to think whether we would like to bring in different approaches under the same roof, because that will lead to better use of your own human resources, better use of your own capital investments, better use of infrastructure, lab, and other kinds of resources that you are investing and you will invest. So we have to go in for integrated approach. Then only it is possible for us to have a sustainable approach. But focusing on any one component, let's say now pesticides for example, how do you ensure resource use efficiency? I refer to the lack of knowledge among the farmers and therefore abuse or misuse or abnormal use. It could be more, it could be less. It is because of this abnormality in usage that we have had cases like Yavatmal in 2017. And therefore the entire industry got a bad name for nothing. Anytime you get a bad name, it becomes so difficult to get out of that thing, because there will be many doubting Thomases, many naysayers, and many people just waiting for an opportunity to kill somebody. So everything happens in our system. So always prevention is better than cure. Whether it is in pest management or even managing our own business, managing our reputation, always prevention is better than cure. Cure will never bring 100% resilience. Therefore, I would suggest that can we start now using better technology? Based on data analytics will help in forecasting. And if we are able to forecast, we are able to give better advice to the farmers. And therefore the farmer is better prepared to take care of it. Most of us in input management today and also in output management are still more focused on providing goods. Let us say, as a pesticide dealer, he is selling his goods, different kinds of pesticides. As somebody managing hiring a machinery center, he is giving it on a hire. He is renting it out. But can these people now become service providers? If we think and if we know, and it is a fact, that the farmers do not know how to use properly, why not we give him a pesticide and also take responsibility of managing his farms? Because we need science, we need technology, and unfortunately science and technology demand scales of economy. Given the fragmented nature of our agriculture structure, where the average size of holding has come down to 0.6 hectares in states like Uttar Pradesh, and it has come down from 1.1 hectares in 2011 to around 0.8, 0.9 now, because most of the technology that is produced anywhere is not for small farmers. Hence, you will have to have service as an offer on the platter and not just the goods. And then that implies that we are going to have a cluster-based approach. That we demarcate large areas either through aggregation, either through contract, or through farmer producers organizations, or informal clusters. And then we ourselves go there and then take the responsibility for supervising the pest load and see when the pest is about to cross an economic threshold level, and then in advance we take up the required interventions. And if it has crossed an ETL, all right, then we need to go for spray. But as I said, you need a drone. Drone can't operate only on one small farm because it's not always economically efficient. It is not feasible for the farmer. And even if it is feasible, it is not scientific approach, because other farmers have not used. This pest is very intelligent. It also has some cognitive power. It will simply shift to the next farm. So what are we doing to it? And that is not ecosystem-based approach. An ecosystem-based approach means it is a cluster approach. And clusters here, as per the definition, includes of course not just the farm. It also includes the domestic animals. It includes the forest areas. It includes the pasture lands. It includes the water bodies. It includes everything that is there in nature. And therefore it is called as a One Health approach. So if you want a One Health approach, then that is the only approach. And that's the only basis for a sustainable agriculture. So I therefore suggest that we need to really go beyond our bracketed perception, bracketed view, and then see how we can bring in other things. Yes, I'm also aware that you will not be able to do everything that we talked about. Therefore, the partnership approach. Can there be partnership approach that you can initiate? Okay, so different stakeholders who are responsible for different services, and then including in the public sector and the private sector, as also the civil society and the farmers' bodies, all have to come together. That alone is going to pave the way for sustainable approach. So as we do this thing, certainly we need liberalization of our pest management laws. We need to have a more liberalized approach to management. We need a stronger enforcement and stewardship by the state government, because they're the primary stakeholders in this thing. And of course, we also need to start adhering to the sanitary and phytosanitary covenants that have been laid down by the International Plant Protection Convention, because that alone will ensure that we are not being hit by trade barriers based on technicalities. So there are many issues, and in a globalized world, we certainly need to also adhere to the IPPC, and so that we are not in conflict with other countries. Ultimately, India is looking at also exporting, and that is a must. Not only do we become Atmanirbhar to secure our own requirements, but as Honorable Prime Minister has said, it is local of course, but also for the globe, that how India can become a supplier of agriculture produce for the world. And given that many countries are going to face a lot of problems, as you've already seen in the recent times, during COVID times, also in the Ukraine-Russian war situation, India can certainly be an exporter of agriculture produce. And if we want that to happen, with a growing population, decreasing the extent of cultivable land, increasing pressure on resources like water and of course soil, we will have to bring in sustainable approach. And therefore sustainability means that we use all resources in an extensive manner rather than depend on intensive use in certain belts of Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, Indo-Gangetic plains. Use all areas. So I would stop here and thank you once again, and only make another very humble request that see how the partnership mode can be brought in, and some of you, because you have that flexibility to do, unlike us in the government, you can take the lead and also show the way to government agencies. Thank you very much.
Our sincere thanks to Sri Ashok Dalwai sir. Now I'll request Dr. Kanungo sir, you can even take the speaker from there. I know you are not in a good health, it seems, but still, I mean, maybe you got it cold. So, okay.
I am a toxic man. Thank you very much. Namaste. In fact, very eminent persons on the dais, Dr. Dalwai, Dr. Mahapatra, my good friend Salil, Mr. Agrawal. It doesn't mean that all of you are not friends. Mr. Kapoor and others, those who are in the dais, and my friends, who's you of the industry, agrochemical industry sitting in the audience. Let me first thank Dr. Goswami to invite me and give me a chance to stand before you But after listening to stalwarts like Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, Salil Singhal, Dr. Dalwai, Dr. Malhotra, I think I am completely misfit. Yesterday what happened, as you know, I am a medical doctor. A patient came to me. He is not a patient, his wife was suffering from cancer. So he came for consultation, what I should do and all these things. I just asked, what happened? Then he immediately said, it is because of the pesticides. Without knowing that I am very much associated with pesticide, I thought, how if I say that I am associated with pesticide and argue, then I will lose my practice. I have to say yes, pesticide is the cause. Then it come to my mind, the entire industry is not advocating against this type of property. Why? During registration or introduction of these pesticides, lot of data, as you have told, lot of data, both genotoxicity and carcinogenicity. If there is an iota of any suspicion, they are not registered. Then why the people are saying that pesticide is linked to cancer? I think alcohol and hydrogen and others are very insulated. I didn't find any such a meta-analysis or epidemiological study that linkages pesticide and occurrence of cancer. So it is one of my requests to your association to educate the people. The second one is Mr. Dalwai. He reminded me of Yatmal. Yes, Yatmal is there might be some opposition problem, I don't know. But in most of the places, mostly pesticides, about 96 to 97% are suicidal. And when this suicidal patients comes to the doctor, doctor do not know what to do. I was just thinking yesterday night, can it be possible while making your formulation, even the registration, can you add some emetic so that in suicidal purposes somebody takes, it will vomit out. And if there is no because obviously the pesticide, the moment a particular place is dead, we say into one pesticide, that pesticide becomes very popular and everybody starts using it for suicidal purposes. So, and it gives a bad name to that particular product, that particular company. So these two things kindly, this is from my side as a medical doctor, this is my advice. Coming to my good friend Salil, in his last remark, he threw a bomb, that is registration. Dr. Malhotra told, we have international guidelines. I really friends Dhawan Tyag. So these are the people who helped me in preparing these international guidelines. Okay, there are international guidelines. Industry generates the data, submits to the regulatory authorities. If I am there, I interpret in a different way. My X comes, he interprets in a different way. So industry is confused. Authorities are confused. Which one they have to believe? Can we have, your industry can take up a lead to have a harmonization of interpretation of the data akin to the other regulatory authorities. Because here, I have no hesitation in saying there is no harmonization of data. It is completely person-centric. Coming to your trade of agri-products, that only 2% of pesticide residues are above MRL. If it is so, why are so much agri-products are rejected? Either we have to disbelieve our own data, or there is somewhere something wrong. We have to, all stakeholders, government as well as the industry, need to look at it. Probably we are still not following the prescribed or approved GAP. As Professor Dalwai said and Dr. Mahapatra said, it is one of your responsibility to educate more to the farmers. This is very much required. We had, Salil said that we are having, even Dr. Malhotra said, we are having previously the pesticides which were having doses was about in kgs. Now we have come down to grams. If the grams we have come down, then most of their green chemistry and their MRLs are below LOQ. So where is the problem that we have to think of to sustain our agri-products, agri-export products? So far the pesticide is concerned, yes, role of crop protection chemicals in sustainable agriculture. Yes, we need sustainable agriculture. We cannot have sustainable agriculture with crop protection chemical, without any crop protection chemicals. We need to have crop protection chemicals. I'll just tell one sentence about the banning. There are always here and there are many things. They say that a product banned in other countries, you ban it. Nobody thinks why they have banned. How, keeping in the same product, how we can continue to have it. I'll give you an example. PCNV, we have banned long back. The reason is the manufacturing process which was at that time was there. It was because the impurities of BSC was around 10%. I'm sorry, I have not remembered. But the newer technology has come through processing. It has come down to 0.06 or something, which is apparently safe. Can you not think of any banning? Throw a challenge to the industry. Okay, why don't you come up with a different technology or manufacturing process so that it can be made safe? So these are a few points I have in my thought. I'm telling you, thank you very much again, giving my opportunity to me to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kanungo. Our last speaker in today's panel, Sri R.D. Kapoor sir, I request you to say a few words.
You gave me a very big honor.
Yeah, sorry.
So, absolutely an honor, sir, to be speaking in presence of such luminaries. And I just pick up from where you left, sir, both of you. India is standing at a very interesting crossroad where we have large opportunity to be a global food supplier, and we have a huge challenge that we are to feed a huge and ever-growing population, which has tremendous malnutrition issues, which has slided by another 1 point in the Human Development Index in this year. The fact that yesterday we had to ban the export of broken rice and put up export duty of 20% on the rice, non-basmati rice, very clearly underlines that however much we applaud ourselves, the fault lines are there and they are very obvious. One climate event or one geopolitical event could put us completely off. Having said that, under this context and the context of larger sustainability platform, we as an industry need to deliver, if I may borrow from you, sir, we need to move from a product to a solution. So if we can provide solutions which make the food affordable, accessible, available, of course, and safe and nutritious, that's in bottom line, that's what we need to deliver. So I think, sir, very clearly there are, I'm not going to getting into the entire thing, but I fully prescribe to the view of that you talked about resource use efficiency. Very clearly, like fertilizers, like water, pesticides also have a significant issue with the use efficiency, and I think we need to work at that. So in my opinion, sir, there are 3 or 4 clear solutions available right now in front of us. One of it is on the policy platform. On the policy area, I think we need to have a very clear, we need to have a clarity which should flow right from the top, saying what are we wanting to achieve? Are we looking at natural farming to be the mainstream, organic farming to be the mainstream, or because every time I hear 2 things. The big bosses say natural farming, organic farming is the priority. And then when I meet the experts, they say we can't survive without the rest, without the scientific and without the what we call as intensive agriculture, where you produce more with less. So I think we need some kind of a clear thing. I am a supporter of organic agriculture, absolutely, because there are rich people sitting in Europe who have lots of money, and I think we must bring their money into our country by exporting a lot of so-called organic products. Great opportunity, great market opportunity. We must target this segment. This is a very interesting segment. Second thing, sir, on the policy front clearly is we need to be very clear that the regulatory system needs to be, what is the role of the regulatory system? We need to be clear on this. Is this a system to control or is this a system to facilitate? So I would prescribe that under the new, it had to be a control system when we started in '68, but today a need of the hour is to facilitate because the targets have changed. Today the Prime Minister is so aspirational that we're talking about being the food bowl of the world. हम बात कर रहे थे उस जमाने में कि कैसे ship to mouth. Till about 4 years back we were hearing ship to mouth. Today, ये ship to mouth का तो जुमला सुनने को ही नहीं मिलता, right? So we moved to an aspirational state where we need to grow a lot more. So our productivity levels have to grow significantly, and hence we need technology and innovation, sir, very rightly as you said. How will the technology and innovation come? So one, and the best way is to make that in Bharat, make in India. If you can, discover molecules, India, absolutely the first thing that should happen, and biggest preference should go to them. Immediately approve them. But if it is not happening, look globally. Where are the best products available? Please invite them, get them here. Create an ecosystem that supports innovation. Because ultimately, if you have an ecosystem that actually plays against the innovator, then you are talking something else and you're doing something else. So, recommendation from my side would be that we need to have a very clear policy decision that innovator, and that's what the Prime Minister himself says, the innovator must be incentivized. So how do you incentivize them is by way of making sure the innovations are protected, well protected, they are not taken away by the fly-by-night operators. Similarly, there must be an incentive provided to them for having invested significant amount of money so that they can bring the molecule right in the beginning into the place. Now, we in the regulatory system, we had this lot of discussion, and I think Salilji actually led it very ably, along with the Agriculture Secretary, where we had the 3D reforms. Those 3D reforms came up to a level, and suddenly in the last RC meeting we see that we possibly are having a reverse of the 3D. So it is D3 now, from 3D to D3. So it's possibly moving in the reverse direction. So maybe
D4 destroyed.
okay, I don't want. No, what I'm saying is consistency is so very important for investors to invest. If the consistency of policy is not apparently absorbed at the level of the investor, the investment will not happen. If the investments do not happen, innovations do not happen. If the innovations don't happen, 50% of the population of the country continues to struggle, or maybe go down further, because there's nobody else supporting them with technology in the whole sense. The other one is the integrated solutions are absolutely bang on that aspect. But what are we doing about it? Again, on the same front, we talk about biologicals. IPM in India means biologicals. Right? So I mean, that's what I hear. Every platform, including the platform of our most prestigious research institutes. I think IPM goes way beyond that. If we are talking about a solution approach, which includes newer concepts like precision agriculture, which talk about AI, ML that you talked about, sir. A model that can forecast pest incidences, a model that can precisely ask you to apply the precise product at the precise time, at the precise application. So we have the capabilities, we have the technologies. Please help us to execute those technologies at the grassroots level. Help us with that. Now, coming to microbial, sir, you mentioned about it. Would you not be surprised that in this country, while we talk about a lot about organic, jaivic agriculture and all that stuff, but we don't have a policy for microbial pesticides import. Of course, what we have in the country, you use it, but what about the large resource that is available globally? There are products which have huge shelf life, 2 years shelf life. There are newer technologies which are blending biologicals with chemicals. Why are we denying the country? Just because, I was just looking at some of the RC minutes, and then they said, okay, rejected because it should be made in India. Now, that completely beats you. Because how can you have a system that kind of says, okay, if you don't make it in India, I don't give you a registration. I mean, what we are doing is, if a farmer was to hear this, he would possibly come and, वो tractor इस तरफ को चलाता हमें मारने के लिए, क्यों नहीं दे रहे आप? So I think that, sir, this incongruity in the system, if you can address them, the industry clearly understands and appreciates that it has a responsibility on stewardship. And I think increasingly you would see that while the Jeep campaigns are on, we ourselves are working with Maharashtra government, and recently we got recognized for it also. A lot of work that we are doing. We are doing on a village basis. I think if you put together the entire industry, we have something closer to about 1 lakh of people working at the grassroots promoting good agricultural practices. Having said that, there are obviously commercial interests of the channel which we need to possibly address. We need to train them, groom them, but the partnership needs to happen. We need ICR to come with us. We need the government extension machinery to come with us. Sit with us, talk with us, whatever is the message, whatever is the common denominator, we will transmit that for you, for all of us rather, to the grassroots. So the partnership has to be with government and the public system, government and the private system, private and private. There's a lot of scope for private to come together. For example, the entire food chain approach we can take. I mean, why is the fertilizer industry and pesticide industry not joining hands together on a solution board? So these are the questions that we will address, but we will need to see an ecosystem. We need a trigger from you. We need a very clear signal from you to come to say, okay, you're good to go, and we will go, sir. You know, business goes fast. It travels at the speed of light. We will do that, sir. And on the enforcement, sir, you mentioned about it, that we clearly are requesting that there needs to be a national harmonization in enforcement also. Whether it be regarding the so-called misbranded, not misbranded really, the duplicate products, the word spurious has been denied, contested by many people, but I could say the clear counterfeits or the bio-laced products, or the products which are called bios, but they are, I mean, you saw 500 of them in one of the exhibitions we showed you. So I think we need to have a very clear policy that this is something where we have zero tolerance. If we can have that, I think we clearly would be doing very well. So let me not drag this. I think we've taken the session way forward. But from the side of the industry, sir, I stand here to assure you that the industry will take 5 steps for every one state that you take at the government level, or at the ICR level, or at the any research level. We understand our responsibility. We understand that we have a very clear deliverable, which is not only ensuring the farmers are growing crops in a most easy manner without having to lose the 2 lakh crore that they lose every year due to pests, and they have to do so in the most sustainable manner. So we definitely are committed to it, and you will continue to see this whole thing is building up. But if the government was to join us, this will grow. It will grow. This 1 + 1 will be 11, clearly. Thank you so very much for your attention, sir, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mr. Kapoor. My apologies to address you by Mr. R.D. Kapoor's name.
It's an honor, I think. He's my big elder brother and
Right.
most knowledgeable person today in the industry.
No, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Before I hand it over to Dr. Goswami, I would request our past president, Sri N.K. Agarwal sir, to just say a few words on the subject, please.
So, Namaskar. The galaxy sitting on the dais, my friends and colleagues. First of all, I would like to congratulate the complete team of the ACFI, especially the chairman Parikshit Mundra. So I would like to request you all to give a big applause to Parikshit Mundra. You can see him. He is such a charming personality and magnetic personality, I will say. इसके व्यवहार से आज मैं कह सकता हूँ कि पेस्टिसाइड इंडस्ट्री इज ऑल्सो ऑर्गेनाइज्ड नाउ, और ये ACFI हैज स्टार्टिंग टेकिंग द लीड टू सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री, और इंडस्ट्री को सही डायरेक्शन में ले जाने के लिए ये ACFI जो चली, लकीली आई एम द फर्स्ट प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ दिस ACFI आफ्टर माई कमिंग आउट. बहुत अच्छे ढंग से परीक्षित ने संभाला और पूरी इंडस्ट्री को ऑर्गेनाइज किया. कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम के बेस के ऊपर बिल्कुल डेमोक्रेटिक तरीके से इस एसोसिएशन को चलाने का श्रेय दिया है. तो थैंक्स एंड बहुत बहुत कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस टू परीक्षित एंड हिज टीम के बहुत अच्छे ढंग से ऑर्गेनाइज किया. टेक्निकल कमेटी हमारे पास में है, वो बहुत डेलिब्रेशंस करती है और इंडस्ट्री की प्रॉब्लम्स रेगुलेटरी के रिलेशंस में बहुत काम करती है. उसको भी कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस मैं दूंगा. एक और बहुत बड़ा कोइंसिडेंस है आज के इस पैनल डिस्कशन के अंदर. आप लोग के हैरान होंगे सुनेंगे, पेस्टिसाइड इंडस्ट्री की जो यात्रा शुरू हुई 1968 में, द ओल्डेस्ट इंडस्ट्री ऑफ पेस्टिसाइड इज सिटिंग हियर. श्री सलील सिंघल जी, पेस्टिसाइड इंडिया आपके फादर साहब ने शुरू की, और जो पेस्टिसाइड इंसेक्टिसाइड एक्ट बना उसमें आपके फादर साहब का रोल, डॉक्टर पहाड़िया का रोल रहा, और वो इंसेक्टिसाइड एक्ट बना. उसको चलाने के लिए जो CIB बना, सेंट्रल इंसेक्टिसाइड बोर्ड, उसके टॉक्सिकोलॉजी के भीषण पितामह डॉक्टर कानूनगो, एवरीबडी कैन रिकॉग्नाइज हिम। जब से वो सीआईडी बना है, जितना रिफॉर्म और जितना टॉक्सिकोलॉजी में काम किया है, डॉक्टर कानूनगो यहाँ बैठे हुए, मतलब मैं पैनल की कंपोजिशन बता रहा हूँ आपको। तो सबसे ओल्डेस्ट इंडस्ट्री कि डॉक्टर कानूनगो सीआईडी से जो एसोसिएटेड रहे हैं और चलाया बहुत अच्छे ढंग से है। डॉक्टर महापात्रा, ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन के बाद जितनी भी डेवलपमेंट एग्रीकल्चर में हुई है, मैं समझता हूं उसकी सारी ऑब्जर्वेशन डॉक्टर महापात्रा ने ली है। बीइंग ए मतलब ICAR तो बहुत बड़ा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है और उसके अंदर जितनी भी रिसर्च और जितनी भी एग्रीकल्चर के अंदर काम हुए हैं, वेदर इन सीड्स, एग्रोकेमिकल्स एंड फार्म मैकेनाइजेशन और मैनेजमेंट ऑफ द कंप्लीट एग्रीकल्चर, उस पर जितना काम हुआ है ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन के बाद, वो पूरा डॉक्टर महापात्रा के आप नेतृत्व में है। तो ये भी हमारा सौभाग्य है। और सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट जो मेरे दिल को छूते हैं, मेरे दिल में बैठे हुए हैं, वो है डॉक्टर अशोक दलवाई जी। आई हैव ए बिग रिगार्ड फॉर डॉक्टर दलवाई। PhD चैम्बर के फोरम पे एक बार हम पैनल डिस्कशन पे थे और मुझे नहीं पता आज शायद वो, क्योंकि वो डबलिंग द फार्मर इनकम के कॉन्सेप्ट पे बातचीत हो रही थी, इन्होंने एक नया कॉन्सेप्ट दिया जो मेरे दिल को छू गया और वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। सेकेंडरी क्रॉप। सेकेंडरी क्रॉप आपने एक कॉन्सेप्ट दिया था और आज के दिन फार्मर की डबल इनकम उससे शायद हो भी रही है। वो है साइलेज ऑफ द एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस। आप गेहूं पैदा करते हैं, गेहूं कितने रुपए का बिक रहा है फार्मर का? 20 रुपए किलो, 18 रुपए किलो ऐसे बिक रहा है ना। लेकिन आपको मालूम है उसका भूसा कितने रुपए बिक रहा है? आज गौशालाओं का उसका भूसा 12.5 रुपए, 13 रुपए और जब ये खत्म हो जाएगा तो 14 रुपए तक बिकेगा, जो पिछले वर्षों के अंदर शायद 7-8 रुपए बिका। वो सेकेंडरी क्रॉप है फार्मर की डबल इनकम करने के लिए। अब उसका मैनेजमेंट, स्टोरेज, उसकी सेल मार्केट, वो बड़े इश्यूज हैं। लेकिन आपने ये कॉन्सेप्ट दिया, मुझे लगता है गवर्नमेंट के अंदर, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर के अंदर आप जैसे क्रिएटिव अथॉरिटी अगर हो और इसका कॉग्निजेंस लिया जाए तो ये बहुत बड़ा काम हो सकता है। क्योंकि सस्टेनेबल एग्रीकल्चर विदाउट दी राइट प्राइस हम सस्टेन नहीं कर सकते। अगर गेहूं 40 रुपए किलो हो जाएगा, MSP की बात हो रही है, 40 रुपए किलो हो जाएगा, तो मुझे लगता है कि वो परेशानी हो जाएगी कंज्यूमर्स के लिए और एक वो पॉलिटिकल क्योस खड़ा हो सकता है। लेकिन अगर फार्मर की डबल इनकम सेकेंडरी क्रॉप से हो सकती है। हम लोग एक फार्म मैकेनाइजेशन पे काम कर रहे हैं मेज के ऊपर। मेज का भुट्टा होता है, उसके दाने होते हैं, वो दाने ही एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस है। रेस्ट ऑफ द थिंग इज साइलेज। हमने एक फार्म मैकेनाइजेशन में एक ऐसा एक्सट्रैक्शन निकाला कि भुट्टे के सारे दाने आ गए, रेस्ट ऑफ द साइलेज चर्निंग करके हमने उसी खेत में छोड़ दी। वो अभी हमारे फार्मर्स पीछे पड़े हैं। चर्निंग कर हार्वेस्ट हो गया, वो सारी सॉइल में चली गई साइलेज। अगले दिन पानी दिया और मल्चिंग कर दी। 50 किलो यूरिया पर एकड़ इट हैज रिड्यूस्ड। 50 किलो पर एकड़ इट हैज रिड्यूस्ड एंड द एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन इज द सेम। क्योंकि जितना आपका एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन का सेकेंडरी क्रॉप निकलती है, आप चाहे हस्क ले लीजिए, आप राइस का या किसी भी क्रॉप का ले लीजिए। गडकरी जी से बड़ा नजदीक का संबंध है, वो तो इस मामले में बहुत क्रिएटिव है। मैंने उनके देखे सिस्टम, तो एनर्जी में कन्वर्ट करते हैं। तो ये बहुत बड़ा काम है। तो आज बहुत बड़ा कोइंसिडेंस है, एग्रीकल्चर अपने ACFI के इस फर्स्ट फोरम के ऊपर ऐसी अथॉरिटीज बैठी हैं जो एग्रीकल्चर को एक बहुत बड़ी नई दिशा दे सकती हैं। आप सब लोग आए हैं, मुझे बड़ी खुशी हो रही है और मैं देख पा रहा हूं, मैं महसूस कर पा रहा हूं कि अब एग्रोकेमिकल इंडस्ट्री का बहुत बड़ा रोल होने वाला है इस एग्रीकल्चर सस्टेनेबिलिटी में। क्योंकि पेस्ट के बगैर हो नहीं सकती है। हम श्रीलंका वाला हाल अपना यहां नहीं कर सकते हैं। इसलिए निश्चित रूप से एग्रोकेमिकल का बहुत बड़ा रोल है। चाहे वो वीड प्रॉब्लम है या डिजीज प्रॉब्लम है या पेस्ट प्रॉब्लम है, सब तरह की प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, उसका मैनेजमेंट करने के लिए एग्रोकेमिकल इंडस्ट्री का बहुत बड़ा रोल है। केवल हमारा रजिस्ट्रेशन इजी हो जाए, सॉरी टू से आई एम टॉकिंग अगेंस्ट द इंडस्ट्रीज थिंकर्स, जो आप सोचते हैं ना, हमारा रजिस्ट्रेशन जल्दी हो जाए, हमारे नए मॉलिक्यूल्स आ जाएं। हमारा है फार्मर का क्या है। जब तक हम फार्मर के बारे में नहीं सोचेंगे और इंडस्ट्री के बारे में सोचेंगे, सॉरी आई डोंट बिलीव दिस। फार्मर के बारे में सोचोगे तो इंडस्ट्री का तो कल्याण हो जाएगा। हम फार्मर के बारे में नहीं सोचते और उसका फार्मर का एक्सप्लॉयटेशन करते हैं। हायर डोज भी हम रिकमेंड कई दफे कर देते हैं। जस्टिफाइड यूज अगर हम देंगे फार्मर को, फार्मर 20,000 रुपए की पर एकड़ की इनपुट लगाता है, 20,000 रुपए पर एकड़ की। उसकी बिकती की फसल कितने की एक एकड़ की? 40,000 से नहीं फालतू बिकती। 20,000 रुपए में उसकी जमीन, मेहनत, पानी सब कुछ आ गया। तो इंडस्ट्री से मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप सब लोग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स हैं और 90%, 80% ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री स्ट्रॉन्ग स्टॉलवर्ड्स आर सिटिंग हियर। सब लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट है कि फार्मर के लिए काम करें और बेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी फार्मर्स को दो, फार्मर्स की एजुकेशन का काम करें। फूड सस्टेनेबिलिटी जरूर होगी और हमारा देश विश्व को खाने के लिए दे सकेगा। और ये इसी की जिम्मेदारी है देश की, हमारे देश की जिम्मेदारी है, क्योंकि हमारी इकोनॉमी अभी भी एग्रीकल्चर पर डिपेंड करती है। तो वर्ल्ड को इंडिया ही देने वाला है, ये बात भी तय है। तो इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैंने कुछ अपनी बातें रखी है। किसी को बुरा लगा तो माफी चाहता हूँ। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Many thanks, NK sir. Many thanks to all the dignitaries. Tilochan sir is getting late. Sir has given me time till 1:30, so it's already, I think, 10 minutes we are running late. Request Simran to present, token of appreciation. And just to update you, sir, Mahapatra sir told we have already started doing it for last 1 year. We did a massive campaign program in Haryana, and it was inaugurated by the agriculture minister there. We have hired 5 vans, and with all the awareness posters to purchase agrochemicals with proper GST bill, and how to use the pesticide, when to use, what is the quantity, and other things. And tomorrow we are going to Nagpur. Day after tomorrow, Nitin Gadkari ji will be, unveiling our campaign in Maharashtra. We'll do, sir. I request Parikshit ji to give the token of appreciation to Mahapatra sir. Thank you very much. First, to Ashok Dalwai sir.
Nursing in water, you take hope.
Kanungo sir. And I did bit mistake in between, as such, to Salil Singhal sir. No sir, you are special today. So, very special. There's a small mistake from my side, in every AGM, we unveil a book, called the Registered Pesticide. We take all the data from the CIBS website and compile it. As such, this is the 3rd time we are doing it. Last year when we did it, interestingly, I never thought I will get such a response from the state level. The state officials, I also used to be a state official, so I know that they never take any interest. But first time I have seen that, they have started writing me, send us more books. So this time we have printed 2,000 copies. And that is, this is the 3rd edition. Baby of NK only. Yeah. Well, this is the 3rd edition, and Many thanks. As such, I like to appreciate one of my colleague who started this, like initiative, Girish Ahuja. I can't see him there.